I've been doing my research, and trying to figure out who is Tom Rinaldi. Thank you. Check. Nothing? There we go. Cool. I found a couple names, and I'd love for you to describe them for me. So we got Tommy Two-Putt, Timmy, and we've got the Senator. Where does the Senator come from? Who calls you that?
First of all, let me table that for just a second, and let me talk about how overwhelmingly humbled I am to join the ranks of those to receive this award. When I was first told about it from Greg, and I echoed this to Steve, that to say that I'm unworthy is obvious, and then to hear about the previous winners of the award. But in that humility, let me also state my great gratitude to the Level Office and to Nova Nation. Our family's connected to Nova Nation through our niece Courtney, who sits right there, is a member of the Level Office. We're connected through friendship, through Bob Stites, and have been for many years. We love Nova. And I don't know how earnest that sounds, Keith, considering I'm a Penn guy. Just full disclosure to put that out there. But I just want to tell you how deeply moved and how grateful I am to receive the award and this honor tonight.
Senator, you're avoiding the question.
I am. Anyone who watches ESPN with any regularity, I certainly hope there are a number of you in this room. If there are not, I'll give you a special dispensation for this time in your life when you're pursuing your studies and not wasting your time watching us. You might, from time to time, come across Chris Berman, otherwise known eponymously as Boomer, who, for whatever reason, will come up with a nickname at any time for anyone without any reason. And during golf coverage one time, he simply tossed to me and said, "Tommy Two-Putt, let's go to him." Right? That was the birth there. Lee Corso of College Game Day, the living legend and the absolute signature of our show, who puts on headgear at the conclusion when he makes his pick. Early on in my tenure at College Game Day, I've been on the show 11 years now, I did a piece that I hoped was moving or inspiring or any of those things, and at its conclusion, Coach Corso came on and said, "What a great story by Timmy." That Timmy Rinaldi. What great work. So of course, you can imagine that never died. I'm referred to as Timmy by everyone connected with College Game Day. As for the Senator, that is a nickname bestowed upon me by Scott Van Pelt in golf coverage. Trying to trace the machinations of Van Pelt's mind and where it might go is probably worthy of its own major. Not in terms of the amount of time, but the difficulty that it might take. And I will then say to my son Jack, who has been referred to, who's here tonight, by Scott Van Pelt as the junior senator, I'm glad that you're here as well.
Love that. You've been responsible for some incredibly meaningful stories, some memorable stories, and memorable moments on television. I'm going to rattle off a few of them as I found them on YouTube. You've rapped a Kanye West song. I saw that. Went viral. Probably a fond memory. You've worn jorts on TV. Jorts for all those playing the home game.
Hold on a second. This is a good test here of just the range of our educational palette here at Nova Nation. Raise your hand if you know what jorts are.
There we go.
Wow. Without even realizing it, you absolutely indicted yourselves fashionably by even knowing what the term means, okay? For those who don't know, my hat is off to you. Jean shorts are jorts. Never, ever don them. Ever, under any circumstance.
You've also jumped in a kiddie pool full of ice cubes on air on College Game Day, and then we're joined by a swim team, what was it, last September?
That's true. That's true. That was out at Arizona. Yep. And I was joined by my partner in crime, Gene Wojciechowski, with the suggestion that it would be a very, very hot temperature come game time. I can tell you, I look a lot, no, I'm not saying I look good now, I look a lot better now than I did getting into that tub. I could tell you that.
When you look back on those moments, do you think they're incredible memories, or do you look back and do you laugh?
I think cringeworthy is probably the adjective that most readily comes to mind, yeah.
In the wide range of the stories that you do, they certainly have made an impact. To talk a little bit more seriously now, are there particular stories that stick with you?
No question. And the short answer to people always asking, what's your favorite story? And I'm not sure this is the earnest one, is to say the next one. Because you're always trying to do a better job than you've done prior. And my wife, Diane, who's here, has heard me say this time and time again. I just have a lottery-winning job. It's like winning the lottery. It's a national canvas. Basically, I do 4 things at ESPN. I cover 3 sports: college football, golf, and tennis. And then I do human interest stories across all sport. But to have the nation as a canvas, to have Nikki and Frankie, when I woke up one morning not knowing anything about their experience, and then having the incredible opportunity to come through Greg and Steve, learn about Level, learn about the mission here at Nova, and then experience them in full force, and then present that force to the country 5 years ago now, is just a gift. It's an honor and a privilege to get the chance to do. If I could pick one story, Keith, yeah. And it's not a story that came up because it is not a story that would necessarily fit into those boxes. 5 years ago now, we had the chance to tell a story about a student, a college student and athlete named Wells Crowther, who went to Boston College and was a lacrosse player there, and during 9/11 worked on the 104th floor of the South Tower. He made his way down to the 78th floor sky lobby after the second plane entered that tower. He encountered a horrific scene of carnage with more than 100 people dead, many others dying before him. He was a volunteer firefighter. He tied a red bandana, which he had carried with him since he was a little boy, and basically became a beacon and a passage, guiding a group down 17 flights of stairs so that they could be ushered out of the building by firefighters. And then he went back up the stairs and did it again. And then he did it again. He never made it out. He made it all the way down to the lobby of the South Tower, 75 feet, seconds away. Take a look at the doors in this building. Think about being 75 feet away from the rest of your life, 24 years old. He stayed with FDNY firefighters to try to help them, and he was lost when the building collapsed. He had a classmate, Drew Gallagher, and really the work that you show there is really the celebration of the great producers we get a chance to work with. And Drew Gallagher wanted to tell the story of his classmate and friend, and he tried for 10 years. And on the 10th anniversary, ESPN greenlit the piece. We were able to show it. A lot's happened since then. It's become a movement in its own way. It's become an annual red bandana game at Boston College. That seems to be a story that in the microwave society of television has lasted a little bit.
You seem to speak lightly of your involvement in these pieces that, quite frankly, move people, and they have an impact, and they're incredible mementos to these people moving forward in their life. When you approach a story, what do you look at first? Do you try to capture great sound? I mean, these people are entrusting an incredible amount in you in revealing themselves and opening themselves up to a national audience.
Keith, having been educated at Nova, being a part of a basketball program, now #1 in the nation, obvious pandering. By the way, I'm surprised maybe you'd let anybody with ESPN onto campus right now, because we have tended to be the kiss of death. Whether we broadcast anybody who's #1 or talk about them, they tend to fall fast. Let's hope that that is not the case this time around. That when you talk about a player on the anchor desk, the word you choose, you know there's a chance that you could be flip.
No question.
You could go for the cheap jab. But you don't. You measure it. You think about it. Because it isn't you on the way to work singing to the radio with no one watching. There are people watching. To go and do any story requires three things. Any story. And it requires many things beyond this, but these are the three at their core. Curiosity, humility, and ability to listen. The storyteller should get out of the way. And if you possess those things, hopefully, the story presents itself. But again, I benefit from the greatest stable of producers, shooters, editors, bar none in the nation.
But you're also an incredible writer, too. So I did my research. I've watched countless stories that you've done over the years. Some I've seen twice just because I remember when they aired. Did my research, and I discovered, do you still write poetry?
Oh, wow, you really went deep there.
Of course,
no,
of course.
It certainly has been a while, but I write. Right now, I'm writing every single day. I mean, I write frequently, and I know there are so many people, Keith. I'm sure people in this audience right now who think, you know, this is something I'd like to pursue. I love sport. It's a passion for me. I'd like to pursue it as a career. And I turn it around and I ask you, so what separates the person that gets that opportunity from someone who might not? There are a million answers, but I'll tell you a bedrock answer that I know Keith knows. It's the ability to write.
So your background, you graduate, you go UPenn, you go Columbia, great background. You decide to teach high school English, first in the private side of it, right? Then you go public school in the Bronx. How do you make the transition to TV then?
I was a teacher for a number of years and a coach. As Keith said, having done his homework, I taught at a prep school in Pittsburgh called Shady Side. Don't know if we have anybody here from Shady Side. Do we? There we go. I was there for a couple of years, and then I loved it. It's a great school. Loved the experience. But I wondered how much I really was contributing or how much I had to do with the success of the students. And then I went to the South Bronx, to Morris High School, Colin Powell's alma mater, completely different experience, the poorest congressional district in the United States, a school of great strife and violence while I was there. Awesome. The students were phenomenal. They had irrepressible desire and spirit, and I loved it. But every graduation, and I wonder for what the staffers here at Nova, if you ever feel this way, but a little part of me died every graduation day when I saw those students leave for their adventure. And maybe this is the weakest part of me, but I coveted that. And I thought, where's the next adventure for me? And so I chose another path, and I no longer do anything of any social value. I'm on TV. And I went to Columbia and started the journey.
And much is spoken when you're in TV. Everyone talks about the climb. In fact, the very first station you go to, it's almost a badge of honor. Harrisonburg, Virginia, WHSV, an ABC affiliate, 181 at the time.
Tell them how many markets there
like
are.
215. So not that many, bottom of the barrel, but it was a start, and that's where I learned everything. And it kind of shaped my career, I think, at least my perspective when I told stories and how I approached storytelling and reporting and doing a service for people. What was your first market, and what do you think you took away from it? Were you a one-man band?
I was a one-man band, which means that you shoot everything yourself, you edit everything yourself. It was South Bend, Indiana. I was not a sports reporter till later in my career. I was a news reporter. I was there for 2.5 years. I remember I thought, oh, I'll be here for 6 months. Well, 30 months later, I wondered, hey, is it ever really going to happen? I then went to Oregon. From there, I went to California, then to CNN. I got incredibly, incredibly lucky and got the gig at ESPN.
Huge. I know it's probably a faux pas to do this, to read something that you watch on TV. Usually it's aided by some video you see, some sound you see. I'm just going to read what we call track, what you wrote to introduce a story.
Just stop yourself. Save yourself.
No, this is very good. I'm just going to say it, and I'll probably end up falling into the same cadence that Tom has, because it's incredible. This is Lauryn Hill's season. Although it comes too soon, she understands its scheduling. Maybe not how long it lasts, but what it means. Very simple, probably 2 sentences there. It's a theme of the way that you write and the way you tell stories. Lauryn Hill, by the way, was a 5'11" freshman from Mount St. Joseph's who was diagnosed with a terminal brain tumor, and he told the story of her very first game in college. What's the process in writing that story? How do you tap into that emotion and then come up with those 2 lines?
Lauryn Hill and the Hill family is just a collective portrait in incredible strength. Lauryn was a very promising basketball player. In between getting the offer to play college basketball, her dream, and matriculating, she was diagnosed with a brain tumor, which was inoperable and terminal. The NCAA takes a lot of grief on a lot of different grounds. But the NCAA, in this case, with a special petition from Mount St. Joe, moved up the beginning of the women's basketball season so that she could play a game, with the thought that she may not live long enough to see the true start of the schedule, or she'd be too depleted to do so. 2 weeks, it was moved up. I doubt you've really heard much about Mount St. Joseph's women's basketball. And that's no slight to them. It's a very big and broad sports landscape. Your men's team sits atop it right now. You know the trappings that come with that. The responsibility, the burden, the spotlight, and the coverage. Mount St. Joe doesn't get that coverage. 10,000 people sold out the arena on the Xavier campus to attend Lauryn Hill's first game. We hadn't done the story yet. The story had tremendous reach in that area, the Ohio River Valley. Why does that happen? Why do 10,000 people go to that game? You know how many people came to their season opener the previous year? Fewer than 200. Fewer than 200 to 10,000. That's the magic of sport. It pulls people together. Does it have flaws? Many. Can it be used in the wrong way? Unquestionably. But it's got a magic to it. You guys know it. You live it on this campus. It's the magic that sometimes takes people who are on the margin and brings them in to belong to something. Nikki and Frankie as a perfect example of that power. Because of the 2 coaches that run these 2 programs, because of the level office, because of the spirit that is Nova, that happens. That's a magic. And to be able to tell stories that sometimes in their own way touch just a little bit of it and try to convey it, wow, that's why it's like winning the lottery.
And I've got a quote from it. So that piece began with, "If a court can be home and a team a family, then there should be room for us all, whether we ever walk the floor or bounce a ball or make a basket." To bring you back to when that story aired, what was it like to meet Gregory, to meet Nick, to meet Frankie?
You know, let me tell you that you're always surprised, because nothing happens in broad strokes in real life. You come in, no matter how hard you try to be open-minded, you have a sense of expectation. I think this will be this way. Let me tell you right away how quickly that was dispatched.
This guy right here probably, right?
Well, Greg, if Greg could have put on if we could have gotten a director's chair and a wooden tripod and Scorsese, written across the jacket, we would have been all set. He was so ready for this to happen. And his energy and advocacy and his humility in trying to spread the message of this office, as Steve chokes, as the good doctor chokes on that. But the next part was the humor of both guys right away. The fact that they wanted to mix it up a little bit. Don't treat me with kid gloves. Let's go. What do you got? I love that. And I mean it. I just saw both guys upstairs less than an hour ago, and it was just picked up right where it left off with both Frankie and Nick.
What do you have to say when it comes to disabling this label? Frankie and Nick. You can think of Heath White running on behalf of his daughter Paisley, that when you see Paisley, you see Down syndrome. To the point where he even got tattooed across his chest, Down syndrome, so when they saw him, they see that. You have that ability when you put your finger on something that you disable the label. What do you feel about that?
Judgment, in a negative sense, almost always finds its fuel in distance. Is it really somebody that you know? Greg asked a question. This is a few years ago, or it might have been last year when you guys visited Episcopal, right? He asked a question about the general familiarity the students had with disabilities. Keep your hand up. How many of you have any regular contact with someone with a disability? In this room, look at the hands that go up, which is fantastic. Of course, the greater challenge would be for more hands to come up, because with that distance, that's such vacant ground for misunderstanding and, even worse, dismissal, removal. But with proximity comes connection. It comes knowledge and understanding. I do know somebody. I do. I know Frankie, or I know Nikki. I know a little bit about his or her experience in this challenge. When we heard the Father speak so movingly about Father Bill and the fact that there's this notion, do you see me or do you see the chair? And what I'd ask everybody to see is the thing that's toughest to spot, but most powerful and present. It's the Spirit. It's what we all share. It's what we collectively possess that unites us. And in seeing and sharing and understanding and celebrating that Spirit, that's where real progress is forged, where understanding is built. And when I look at what has been done here at Nova, the reason it happens here, on top of the tremendous energy and devotion of these two men, it's not circumstantial. It's not a random setting. It's the spirit of the place. There's a pride here in service, in faith, in understanding. That's why this kind of story happens at this kind of place. And sadly, why maybe it doesn't happen at more.
And through your stories, you raise incredible awareness for disabling labels. And for people that, just like you said, raise your hand. For the people who didn't raise their hands, you bring that right onto their television and right into their living rooms. I'm curious, people surrender a lot of their trust, and they trust you to tell their story well. What happens when someone isn't as comfortable to open themselves up?
What a great question, Keith. There's a football player, Henry Josie, at the University of Missouri. went to do a story about him a couple of years ago. Josie had suffered a horrific knee injury, and there was a big doubt about whether he would ever play again. He came back to have a fantastic season for Missouri. But he told the story a bunch of times before game day arrived to try to tell it. He sat down in the chair, and he looked a little disinterested. Maybe more, he looked a little Cam Newton post-Super Bowl-like, okay? And I could tell he didn't necessarily want to share the story. And what I said to him is, I know I'm a guy you just met who just came down from Jersey with a bad haircut, but I'm going to ask you to think of something for me. You don't have to do this, but if you are willing, I want you to think of this. That right when this airs, there's going to be a young athlete, a young woman, a young man in a hospital, and there's going to be a TV on in that room or in that ER bay on ESPN. And that young woman is going to be thinking, it's over. It's the only passion I have. It's the only path I foresee. It's everything and it's over. Don't talk to me. Talk to her. She will see and hear you. She will see that injury, the contortion of your leg, the multiple breaks, the impossibility of any recovery. And then she'll see you put your foot in the turf in the exact spot where your leg exploded, turn and go 88 yards. So you don't have to talk to me. We are the medium, but the medium reaches her. Sometimes that works.
Sometimes. I bet a lot of times that works. It's pretty good, right? Their legacy is in your hands, and you give them an everlasting memento. Do they ever give you something back? I've mentioned these names, and I've described them in very basic terms, and you remember every single one so far that I have said. And I've went back, years at some of the, bigger stories. What do they give you? What do they leave you with, everyone you interview?
I mean, the simplest thing in the world. Like, Keith, you're incredibly in tune with the experience because you share it. When you're asking someone to share their story, it's an incredible act of trust. And to honor that trust is a huge burden. And there have been many times where we have failed to honor it, either through ineptitude on my part, mistakes I've made, not having enough time. Again, Diane, as my witness, will tell you, and I've mellowed about the number of times I could have been fired many times over for, at the top of my lungs with the worst brand of language, screaming that this has to be in. This moment has to be in, which is the most selfish and hollow broadcaster lament of more time, more time, more time. But when you feel as though, listen, this is the shot, this is the chance this family has for this story to be shared, you want to get it right. But what I get is moved, enriched, deepened. I mean, I get the endless gift of people willing to open their hearts and say, this is the most precious territory of my life. Don't screw it up, guy. Don't screw it up. Get it right, please.
Do you ever wonder how these people are going to be received once it does air?
Yeah, all the time. You showed one clip of Owen and Hatchie. It's a story about a young boy with a really incredibly painful syndrome, and the relationship he has with his dog. They enter dog shows in the UK, and they've never lost. They won the biggest dog show in all the United Kingdom. This boy and his dog. The dog was beaten and left on a railway track outside London, and a train rolled over one of his legs. So the dog has 3 legs, and the boy is in a wheelchair and goes through Jampel syndrome, which is this Schwartz-Jampel, which is muscle contraction of intense pain. And yet, you go to tell the story, and you wonder. I mean, Owen stops 5 times in 45 minutes because he's in too much pain to continue, because his muscles contract. If he took his shirt off right now, I'd tell you, he would look as ripped as any athlete on this campus. 8 years old. And he's in intense pain. So there's a fundamental decision there to make. Do you show that? Do you show that pain? We did a story this year of a boy who suffers from EB, epidermolysis bullosa, a terribly rare and incredibly painful skin condition. So painful that if you were to turn in bed with a single sheet, your skin would be sliced. The piece called The Butterfly Child has a scene where he is bathed. His mother, who's a nurse, bathes him every other day. Think about this. If there's one thing to take from this tonight, think about this. 3.5 hours every other day to bathe him, to take his bandages off, clean his body, and then re-bandage him. We wondered, can people withstand seeing it? Right there. Could you? My wife could not watch it. How do you handle that? But to me, it goes back to, do you preserve the distance or do you close the gap? It's a tough balance.
It certainly is a balancing act. You know, there's a lot of pressure on me tonight. Watching all of your
You're
pieces.
doing awesome.
Listen to this. Well, thank you.
Much better than I am, I'll tell you that, Keith.
Listening to your pieces, the interviews that you've done with such big names, you ask very succinct, clear, short questions. And here I am fuffering around, reading 3 or 4 different lines.
Oh, come on.
I've always heard you ask the right questions, you get the right answers. How did you hone that skill?
All right, well, let's just very quickly, guys. I have to do this because if I don't, I'll be ashamed of myself for this opportunity with young minds. Raise your hand if you know what a closed question is. Tessa, our daughter, just raised her hand. Everyone who didn't raise your hand, she's a proud 3rd grader at McKay. All right, great job. Raise your hand if you know what a closed question is. Hannah, put your hand down. That's awful. Stites, you had no chance. I know you shut down right there. Okay? Somebody in the back, raise your hand again. All the way in the back. Stand up for a sec. Stand up. Say your name loudly. Sarah, ask me a closed question.
What is your name?
Somebody else. Am I going to put anybody else on the spot? Tessa. Tessa, go ahead. Do you like your house? Ding, 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 ding. How about a hand for Tessa real quick right there? A closed question.
Can I have another chance? Is it raining outside today?
Correct. So, great. Hey! There we go. Redemption. A closed question starts with a verb, right? An open question starts with, everybody go back to 1st grade, what, who, where, when, why, okay? How, etc. There are a handful of closed questions to ask. Will you marry me? Are you pregnant? All right, there are some questions like that to ask, certainly, and they have their time and place. All right? But in these settings, Keith, ask, I'm amazed at, how about this? I want you to think, please, can you just think of me the next time you hear, when you're watching a press conference, you see an athlete interviewed, tell me about. I know you know. I know you know. Tell me about. That's not a question, it's a command. So you're commanding the subject? No. Okay. How about the other classic? Ask the question and then guess the answer. Late in the second half, when it was just a one-possession game, what were you thinking about settling for the outside shot? Were you thinking that would be okay because you guys had done well on the board so far? But let the subject answer the question. Don't guess the answer. Right? And the last one, asking 3 or 4 questions at one time. Ask a question and listen to the answer. That's it. Right? As simple as that.
Exactly. Yep.
As simple as that. Huh? Yeah.
That's right. You've interviewed some huge names. Kobe Bryant, Magic Johnson, Tiger Woods, Roger Federer. I can go on and on and on and on and on. The one that fascinated me in terms of coming up with questions and being prepared was the very first interview with Tiger Woods following his alleged infidelity up to that point. How long do you prepare for that interview?
So this was the first interview done with Tiger after the implosion of his personal life. To take you back then, because we're a young group in this room, right. Tiger was LeBron. And he may have even been bigger than LeBron, right? Would you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. We found out he was going to grant the interview. There were only 2 conditions, and one was odd and one was not. 5-minute time limit. The other one was, well, there were 2 others, standing and outside. Standing, because it makes it easier to say your 5 minutes are up, you're out. And outside, because you don't want anything to look confessional at all. Right, so other than that, ask anything you want. Again, to refer to Diane as my witness, I got the call. I was covering Florida spring football. Holy cow, I think Tim Tebow was still on the team. And I went back to the hotel. I wrote 6 questions and
that's it?
Yeah. And that's it. And all the other questions were follow-ups. Real quick, and I know I'm going on way too long here, real quick. 2 months before, Diane asked me, out of nowhere, everybody in the world wanted to get Tiger for the interview, everybody. Diane asked me, do you think you could get Tiger? I said, I have no idea, but I know one question that I would ask him. Not the first question, but one. What is it? Why did you get married?
It was the final question, actually.
Why'd you get married? 15 minutes before the interview, I'm trying desperately not to throw up in my mouth. All right? I have the shakes, the whole thing. Diane calls. How you doing? I said, how am I doing? I'm falling apart. How do you think I'm doing? I said, I'm not going to ask him, why'd you get married? I just think it's disrespectful. She says, okay. 30 seconds later, phone rings again. Don't lose your nerve. In the kitchen 2 months ago, before it happened, you said, if you could ask one question, it would be, why did you get married? Don't lose your nerve. Click. And it was probably the only question that anybody really paid attention to in terms of the question and answer.
But it's that curiosity, tapping into that, because that's what everybody was wondering, too. Have you ever cut questions? Have you ever planned to go in, guns a-blazing, or even not, and sat across from someone who's entrusted you with telling their story, and decided not to ask a particular question?
No. No. The hardest questions are the simplest. And many times in very difficult situations, a question like, the three questions that should maybe work in any story worth telling. What was the low point? What was the turning point? And the greatest question of all time, what happened next? Just tell me a story. What happened next?
It's a great lesson for a lot of the kids here in the audience. You've tapped into it before, the fact that a lot of them might want to do what we do for a living, particularly what you do for a living.
No,
I want to do what you do for a living. What advice would you give to the students here in the audience?
You know, I did a brief interview with Villanova, with the student newspaper, a wonderful reporter upstairs, and the three pieces of advice I gave them, again, were just curiosity, right? Humility, and listening. Those are always a good guide. And if you can write, as you know, Keith, you can do two jobs as opposed to somebody who can only stand on TV and talk.
And be willing to sacrifice too in that small market, whether it be South Bend or Harrisonburg, Virginia. At this point, number one, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this. I know everyone here does too. And at this point, I would like to welcome your niece to the stage, Courtney Milton, to present the award.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Courtney Milton, and I am proud to present this year's Father Bill Atkinson Humanitarian Award to my Uncle Tom. Father Bill Atkinson was an amazing man, built of strength and toughness. When he was 19 and lost all feeling and movement in a toboggan accident, he surrounded himself with a strong support system that motivated and guided him to take on the new challenges of life. He became a man of inspiration and wisdom to the boys of Monsignor Bonner High School as a teacher and a friend. And he became a symbol of fearlessness and inspiration to so many others through Steve McWilliams' book, Green Bananas. Throughout his career, my uncle has traveled to many places and has met many people. But one place that has always stood out to him was Villanova, specifically the Office of Disability. He spoke highly of a place filled with compassion, fearlessness, and acceptance. That is exactly what I found here when I visited Villanova one spring day as a junior in high school. As soon as I walked into the office, I felt this incredible energy from everyone, and it is an energy that I still feel to this day every time I walk into the office. The office has become my home, a place where I feel most at ease, as it is filled with amazing people who I have incredible connections and memories with. It is these connections and people that have taught me so much about life and have truly shaped my Villanova experience within the 2 short years I have been here. I will forever be grateful to have been part of such an extraordinary organization and mission such as Level. Father Bill Atkinson has been such a source of inspiration for the students of Level since it began. Therefore, I am honored to present this award tonight to a person who embodies the qualities of Father Bill Atkinson in everything that he does. From reporting on courageous individuals achieving incredible things despite their disabilities on SportsCenter, to the deep connections he makes with each member of my family during our Christmas dinners and beach trips. My uncle's passion and energy for everything he does in life is an inspiration to so many. Growing up, I would watch my Uncle Tom, and I saw the compassion and care he had for everyone around him. It is something that seems to come so naturally to him, and something that I strive to emulate in my everyday life. My uncle is a man of inspiration and wisdom, not only to me, but to everyone who is fortunate to get to know him. He is so much more than a 12-time National Sports Emmy Award winner and a 6-time National Edward R. Murrow Award winner. He is a teacher, a friend, and an inspiration to all. I am honored tonight to award the 2016 Father Bill Atkinson Humanitarian Award to my uncle, Tom Rinaldi.
I just want to say thank you, and again, it's an award that I absolutely am thrilled to receive, but that I absolutely do not deserve. And I'll echo the first comment that I made tonight. This is a place of great, great spirit. I want to thank Courtney. I want to thank Steve and Greg with Level. I want to thank my guys, Nikki and Frankie, my family for coming out tonight, but mostly, I want to thank the spirit and the goodness that lies at the center of Nova Nation. It isn't just about disabling the label. It's about building the spirit and forging the connection. I'm so honored to receive this. Thanks so much, guys.
I wanted to welcome up our Director of Athletics, Mark Jackson, for some final remarks.
Thank you, Courtney, and thank you all for being here tonight. I'm humbled and honored to be up here and to be a part of this special night. And I, too, connected to Greg and Steve's passion and your commitment to all that you're doing. I've only been here a short time, but the short time I've been around both of you, it was immediate, and I want you to know that it's very, very special to be here tonight to honor Tom Rinaldi and all the work that he's done. Wow, 12 Emmys, 6 Murrow Awards, Penn, Columbia, obviously couldn't get into Nova. Courtney, you're going to be the real senator, okay? I want you to know that, right? Because of the value of that degree. There's always time to come back for another one. But I've gotten to know Tom over the years. We've shared some conversations around the world of sports. And I knew this before tonight, maybe you didn't, but the authenticity of what you see on TV, can't you feel it here tonight when he talks to you? It's not just about being in front of that camera. He lives what he believes in, and you can hear that and you can feel it here tonight. So Tom, thank you so much for being a part of us tonight. Because I think what you connect to and what we all connect to is the spirit of humanity, and especially here at Villanova, where we talk so much about community and leaning on one another. Whether it's the world of disability or whether it's the world of academics or the world of athletics, I think we get that better than most. And certainly Father Michael and Father Rob can speak to it, and Michael Gaynor, you can speak to it. Nick and Frankie, you can speak to it. I know the athletes in the room can speak to it. And for a new guy that's just coming in here, I feel so connected to it. It is something that's unique, and I've been at a few other places. It is that sense of community. And for me, more specifically, in what we're doing in the Office of Disability Services, it became real personal for me 2 years ago. And to your point, Tom, about not knowing it until you're up close and personal with it, I'm experiencing that right now. I have a brother-in-law who is my age, 3 children, a firefighter in Massachusetts who fell off a roof a little over 2 years ago and became a quadriplegic. And he's been my closest, my wife and I were high school sweethearts, so I've known Chad for, I don't know, however long, that's almost over 20 years now. And to watch him go through what he's going through right now, I'm learning a lot. I'm sort of disabling my own label. I looked at all your t-shirts tonight. I immediately connect with that. And I'm proud to tell you tonight that last Saturday, I hosted Chad and his family for their first ever sporting event since the accident. And we brought them down to Providence College, and we had lunch in the hotel that sits maybe, 10 minutes from the Civic Center. But I lived this world with him for the first time, step by step, in a crowded hotel. A lot of people coming to see the team, and what it meant for him to get in the elevator, and what it meant for him to have lunch, and what it meant for him to get from the hotel to the Civic Center on an icy sidewalk. And I'm just in complete amazement, and he inspires me because he's a guy that is the toughest man that I know. And to watch him go through that with a smile on his face, and then to watch Nova Nation become #1 in the country after beating PC. And I promised him here, when we cut down the nets, whatever championship we win, he's going to be down here too. And his face lit up, and I'm so happy that he could be a part of that. And all I'm really here to say tonight is the athletic department is committed to what you guys are about and what you're doing, not only because it's personal to me, but because it's something we should be doing and we should be a part of, and we're a great front doorstep for you in that regard. So you have my commitment to that. I look forward to being with you each step of the way. Tom, again, congratulations, and I thank you all for allowing me to be here. Thanks.
Mark, thank you very much. 7 years ago when I got here with my main man, Frankie, I didn't know I'd inherit Nicky, but I'm so thankful I did. But we did not know that this was going to be what it was going to be, but I know in our hearts we believed that it could be. Steve had no clue what he was getting into when he brought Frankie and myself in, and then bringing Nicky in and starting this thing called Level. And I mean, look at where we are now. And I think what's great about tonight isn't just about a celebration of the Office of Disability Services. Look at our network. Look at our network. A guy like Matt, who's sitting here in front with this camera pointing at me, was a Villanova student who edited coming off the DL as a junior in college here at Villanova. Went on to direct a documentary his senior year and has been here ever since. He cut that piece together for Tom tonight. He does everything that you see in that office. Matt did not know much about the disability world, but he entered into it, and he closed the gap, and now he's an advocate for us. And what a great network because of his skill. So Matt, thank you for everything that you did tonight. You look at Mr. Gaynor, our Director of Admissions, someone that sees over 17,000 applications, but is always looking out for the office and wants to make sure that we have every ability to provide the best student experience. Your Director of Admissions is supporting us. Our Director of Athletics, Mark, coming in, he's a brand new guy. I sit with Mark one time and it got real casual, real quick, and real friendly and real honest, and you have the Director of Athletics that's supporting you. What a great network. You have the students, the Augustinians, Father Rob. You have Keith. Again, I didn't know Keith. I reach out to the guy, he gets to know me, he becomes a part of our family. He has a platform. Everyone in this room has the ability to build their network. And with the disability world, we weren't quite sure what that network was going to be. But man, am I proud to be here tonight on behalf of the office and on behalf of all of you. And Tom, I can't think of a better guy. I know you say you don't deserve it, but you do. The things that you do, the way that you do it, the class, the dignity, the style, the grace, it gave us a platform to open that window wide open. And man, did I kick it open with the thanks of a girl named Ariana Meltzer-Broom, with the help of Frankie and Nicky. But without those words, without that music, without Coach Wright, without College Game Day, I don't know if it would be what it is. So thank you for what you've done. And also to be my friend. I want you guys to know Tom is a very accessible guy. We talked on the beach about him being here this summer, and he told me no, and I told him he was coming regardless. But he's a very accessible guy. He's a real guy. His family is terrific, and the Milton family, everyone here is terrific. So with all that being said, I always say this all the time, tonight is a special night for Villanova for many reasons, so I thank all of you for being here. And also, as we always do with Level, is we like to promote. So tonight we are going to sell some tickets for a casino night like we did last year. And for anyone that's willing to buy a ticket tonight, you will also enter into a private drawing just for those of you that are here for a $50 gift card to the White Dog Cafe. So again, the event's in April. I know it's far away, but also you have a shot at a gift card that no one else will get but tonight. So if no one buys a ticket, I will, and I'll take that gift card and take everyone out to lunch for $50, whatever I can bring. So as I leave you tonight, I didn't know much about Villanova. I wasn't a Villanovan. I'm from Monmouth County, New Jersey. Grew up 6 blocks from the beach and knew nothing of the Nova Nation. It is amazing what the 7 years has done for me and for my family and for our network, but I can only imagine what the future holds. And a night like tonight is just reaffirming that we're gonna really blow this thing wide open. So Steve, get ready, man. We got more work to do. And Tom, again, from Level, from our office, from everyone here, thank you so much for sharing your time with us, and thank you for all the work that you do. And with that being said, have a great night. Go Cats. We love you. Thanks for coming.